Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're diving into something super relevant for a lot of you right now, healthy eating during Ramadan.
Yeah, it's that time of year again. We're going to be looking at a guide, actually, a really interesting one, all about how to approach nutrition during Ramadan.
So if you're already in that Ramadan mindset, prepping, planning, thinking about food,
Or maybe you're just curious, about what the practice involves and want to learn more.
totally. Or maybe the health angle is what got you interested, whatever brought you here.
We've got some really practical tips and useful information to share. We went through this whole guide and pulled out the most important bits.
Exactly. We want to make sure you walk away feeling prepared and confident about navigating those meal times.
Without getting totally overwhelmed. There's a lot of info out there.
Right. We want to keep it actionable, right?
Yeah.
Give you those key takeaways you can actually use.
That's the goal. And we're covering a lot of ground. We're talking meal planning. We're talking hydration, keeping your energy levels up, supporting digestion. There's even specific guidance for anyone with diabetes.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty, just a quick reminder. While we're focusing on the nutritional aspects here,
Of course, of course. We totally recognize and respect the profound spiritual and cultural significance of Ramadan for those who observe it.
okay, so with that said, let's start with the basics. Ramadan involves fasting from sunrise to sunset, right?
Right. No food, no water during those daylight hours. And it's accompanied by those, spiritual practices, the prayer and reflection.
Yeah, definitely. And this guide we're looking at, it really highlights how you can optimize your well-being during those unique eating patterns.
It's not just about not eating. It's about really nourishing yourself during those times when you can eat.
Exactly. And on that note, something that guide stresses right away, and we can't emphasize this enough, is talk to your doctor.
Oh, absolutely.
Make sure fasting is right for you, especially if you have any underlying health conditions.
Yeah, that's a must-do.
Everyone's different, right?
Right. Okay, assuming you're good to go, let's talk about when you actually get to eat.
Yeah, break it down for us.
All right, so you've got your main meals. Suhoor, that's your pre-dawn meal.
Gotta get that one in.
Iftar, of course, when you break the fast at sunset.
And one everyone looks forward to.
And then you might be able to squeeze in a snack or two between those bigger meals.
Makes sense. So for both suhoor and iftar, the guide recommends going for balanced meals and snacks. Why is that so important?
Well, it's about keeping your blood sugar stable and making sure you actually feel full and satisfied for as long as possible.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
It even gives a visual, like how to build your plate. Half non-starchy veggies,
Easy to remember.
quarter protein,
Remember?
and another quarter whole grains, or those starchy veggies.
Pretty simple.
Simple, but super helpful. And the snacks, those matter too,
Oh yeah, gotta feel those in-between times.
definitely. Protein and fiber are your buddies there.
I feel like I always hear that. Why are they so important?
Yeah. They just work together so well. Protein keeps you feeling full and satisfied.
Yeah.
And then fiber, that slows down digestion, helps you feel full longer, and keeps your blood sugar in check.
Okay, I get it. So what kind of stuff are we talking about for suhoor specifically?
The guide's got some great ideas.
Lamb on us.
Okay. Overnight oats, made with milk. Throw in some nuts, some fruit.
Sounds pretty tasty, and it'll keep you going.
Right. Another good one, an egg wrap. Scrambled eggs, whole wheat tortilla, maybe some veggies on the side.
That hits all the right notes.
Some of it.
You can even add a little fruit, too.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of fruit,
You know what else they suggest? Hummus. With whole wheat pita bread, maybe some carrots, cucumbers, something crunchy.
oh yeah, I love that.
That's hitting the healthy fats, the protein, fiber, all in one.
I could go for that right now.
Right. And of course, there's always a more traditional option. Dal.
Ah, the classic lentil stew.
Exactly. With some whole wheat chapati, maybe add some veggies or fruit for extra goodness.
That sounds really filling.
It is. And hey, don't forget the water.
Ah, yes. Hydration. It's crucial, especially during Ramadan.
For sure. The guide actually recommends like 8 to 12 cups of fluid between sunset and sunrise.
That sounds like a lot. How do you even manage that?
It takes some effort, definitely,
Yeah.
but it's so important to replenish those fluids after a whole day of fasting.
Right, I get that. And speaking of fluids, what about what we're drinking?
Good point. The guide suggests limiting caffeine, sugary drinks, and fruit juices.
Why is that? They seem pretty hydrating.
Well, caffeine can actually make you lose more water than you take in. It's a diuretic.
Ah,
And those sugary drinks, they can spike your blood sugar, then you crash. Not ideal, especially when you're fasting.
I never thought about that. So plain water is the best bet.
That's your go-to, for sure. But, Fruits and veggies also contribute to your overall hydration.
They do.
Oh yeah, they're packed with water. Think cucumbers, watermelon, all those juicy fruits. And, the guide even lists some signs of dehydration to watch out for.
Like what?
Fatigue, feeling restless or irritable, headaches. You might even get constipated.
Wow, really?
Yep. And sometimes you might feel hungrier when you're actually just thirsty.
That's interesting. Easy to misinterpret those signals.
It is. And you might notice you're not peeing as much or your blood pressure is a bit higher.
Good to know. So what about physical activity? Can you still work out during Ramadan?
Yeah, the guide talks about that. They actually point out that the nightly prayers themselves involve some movement.
Yeah, true. You're standing, bowing, prostrating.
It all adds up.
Definitely.
But beyond that, they recommend aiming for about 15 to 30 minutes of moderate activity on most days.
Something like walking, right?
Exactly. Preferably in a cooler environment, especially if it's hot out.
Smart.
Now, they do say to take it easy on those intense workouts.
Like your hardcore cardio, weightlifting, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Your body needs to conserve energy while you're fasting.
Makes sense.
Timing's important too. They suggest either light activity right before iftar, so you're about to refuel, or maybe a couple hours after, once you had a chance to eat.
Okay. And keep it under an hour, they say.
Yep. And hey, listen to your body.
Yeah.
If you start feeling unwell, stop immediately.
Right. Dizziness, nausea, anything like that.
Absolutely. Don't push yourself.
And speaking of listening to your body, the guide also talks about rest and other activities to boost your energy.
Yeah, fasting can sometimes make you feel more tired, right? Or have trouble concentrating.
I can imagine. What do they recommend?
All sorts of things, actually.
Right.
Taking a nap, meditating, getting creative with art,
Oh, nice.
reading the Quran, journaling, calling a friend to chat.
Yeah.
Anything that feels restorative, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Just taking care of yourself.
Exactly. And there's more, even. Light walking, getting a head start on meal prepping, praying, some gentle yoga.
Well, that sounds nice.
Right. Even just a refreshing shower can make a difference.
I feel more relaxed just thinking about it.
Me too.
So let's move on to something a lot of people experience during Ramadan. Changes in hunger and appetite.
Yeah, your usual eating patterns get totally thrown off, right?
Right. It makes sense that it would affect how hungry or full you feel.
Absolutely. Especially in those first few days, as your body's adjusting.
You might feel a bit more tired.
You might. Your energy levels could dip a little because, well, you're taking in less food and fluids.
Obviously.
But that's what Suhoor and Iftar are for, right?
Yeah.
Replenishing those reserves.
Gotcha.
And that first week can be tough. You might get those intense hunger pangs.
I bet.
And you might feel like eating way more than usual at Iftar.
Totally understandable.
It is. But, the guide warns against overeating. Even though that urge is strong, it can make you feel really uncomfortable,
Yeah, I've definitely been there. It can make even praying harder.
It can. So they recommend planning your meals ahead of time, eating slowly, and focusing on smaller portions.
Smart.
Really be mindful of what you're putting in your body.
And interestingly, the guide mentions that as Ramadan goes on, you might actually start feeling full faster.
Yeah. As your body adapts to the fasting routine, your stomach might kind of shrink a bit.
Huh. That's wild.
It is. So in that case, the guide suggests keeping track of what you're eating and drinking, or maybe focus on upping your fruits and veggies.
To make sure you're still getting all the good stuff.
Exactly.
Huh.
Without overdoing it on the calories.
Good advice. Okay, let's talk about something else that can come up. Managing those digestive symptoms.
Yeah, the dreaded digestive issues.
The guide points out that a lot of traditional Ramadan foods, they're pretty rich.
Right. High in sweets and fats.
Delicious, but not always easy on the stomach.
Especially when you're changing up your eating patterns so drastically.
Totally. What kinds of symptoms are we talking about?
Well, the common culprits are reflux, heartburn, constipation, that feeling of being super full and bloated after you eat.
No one wants that.
Definitely not. And they've got some specific tips to help with all that. For reflux, they say be mindful of high-fat foods, spicy stuff, citrus fruits, chocolate. Even onions and garlic could be triggers.
Wow, that's a lot to keep in mind.
It is. And for general digestive comfort, they say to cut back on added sugars.
Like those tempting sweets?
Yep, those. And also limit caffeine and carbonated drinks.
That's tough, but it makes sense. So what healthier alternatives do they recommend?
Well, instead of frying, try grilling or baking. Be mindful of how much oil you're using.
Okay.
You could even make chapatis without any oil.
Interesting.
And for sweets, maybe choose milk-based desserts, rasmalai, barfi, those kinds of things.
A little lighter, yeah.
Exactly.
And what about those reflux-specific tips?
For that, they say elevate your pillow when you're sleeping and avoid lying down right after you eat.
Good advice in general, I think.
Oh, yeah. And for constipation, make sure you're drinking enough water.
Hydration again.
Always important. And up your fiber intake, of course. Fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, lentils, beans.
The usual suspects.
Right. And light physical activity can help too.
Okay, back to the schedule for a sec. The guide really stresses how important suhoor is for energy.
They do. They even say don't skip it no matter what.
It sets you up for the whole day, basically.
It does. And when you do have suhoor, focus on slow digesting carbs.
Like whole grains.
Yep. Non-starchy veggies, protein, healthy fats.
The winning combo.
They just help you stay full longer. They release energy gradually so you don't crash.
And the guide recommends having suhoor as late as possible, especially if you're fasting for more than 10 hours.
Right.
The logic there is, shorten that fasting window a little bit.
Exactly. And it's a good idea to plan those meals ahead of time, too.
Like before Ramadan even starts.
Oh, yeah, like a week or two in advance.
Yeah.
Even just having a rotation of 3 or 4 different breakfast or suhoor ideas can make things so much easier.
Takes the guesswork out of it.
It does. And don't forget about batch cooking.
Oh, yeah, such a time saver.
Huge time saver. And then, the sample schedule they provide is actually really helpful.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Okay, so they have suggested timings for everything. Suhoor, then a snack 1 after sunset but before evening prayers, then iftar after prayers, then time for some activity and evening prayers, and finally a snack 2 later in the evening before bed.
And they give specific food examples for each time.
They do. For suhoor, overnight oats, egg wraps, hummus with pita, dal with chapati.
All the good stuff.
Right, always emphasizing that water. Snack 1 might be dates soaked in milk or a light soup. For iftar, they suggest balanced meals, with a salad, rice, or another grain, protein like chicken or fish, and some roasted veggies. And then for snack 2, before bed, maybe crackers with peanut butter, a small handful of nuts and dried fruit, Greek yogurt, or a granola bar.
Wow, they really thought of everything.
They did.
Okay, we have to talk about Ramadan and diabetes. The guide has a whole section dedicated to that.
It does. It's really important information for anyone with diabetes who's planning to fast.
Yeah, really important. They're very upfront about it, too.
First and foremost, talk to your doctor, a registered dietitian, your entire healthcare team. It's non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
You got to discuss any potential adjustments to medications because of the changes in your eating patterns.
It just makes sense. And they also emphasize having a glucose meter.
And knowing how to use it, too. It's all about monitoring those blood sugar levels.
And just to clarify, they make it very clear that checking your blood sugar doesn't break the fast.
That's important to know. Some people think it does, but it totally doesn't.
Right. And the guide also stresses knowing what to do if you need to break your fast for health reasons.
Absolutely.
Or if you experience high or low blood sugar. And staying hydrated is even more crucial for those with diabetes.
Cannot emphasize that enough.
They even recommend scheduling a pre-Ramadan visit with your healthcare team, like 1 to 3 months before Ramadan starts.
That's so smart.
And then having a follow-up appointment afterward, too.
To see how everything went, address any concerns. It's proactive healthcare. I love that.
Me too. And the guide goes into a lot of detail about the potential risks of fasting for people with diabetes.
It does. It's not something to take lightly.
Right. Frequent self-monitoring of blood sugar is super important, especially if you're on insulin or certain diabetes medications.
Absolutely. And they go over the signs and symptoms of high blood sugar, which is hyperglycemia, and low blood sugar, hypoglycemia. And they talk about diabetic ketoacidosis, too, which is especially important for folks with type 1.
Yeah, they really don't shy away from the serious stuff.
They don't, and they're very clear about when you need to break the fast and get medical attention.
Which is crucial.
Crucial. And they talk about the 15-15 rule for hypoglycemia.
Remind us what that is again.
So, if your blood sugar drops too low, you treat it with 15 grams of fast-acting carbs, wait 15 minutes, then recheck your blood sugar. And they even give examples of what counts as those 15 grams. Glucose tablets, sugar dissolved in water, juice, regular soda, even a specific number of hard candies or a measured amount of honey.
That's super helpful.
Isn't it? It takes the guesswork out of it.
Totally. And for healthy snacking, they recommend a combo of 1 protein and 1 carb choice with about 15 grams of carbs in that carb portion.
They do. And then they list out tons of examples for each category. Grains, fruits, starchy veggies, milk. They even give specific portion sizes.
Oh, wow, so detailed.
Super helpful for meal planning. Like, for grains, one carb choice could be one slice of whole grain bread or half a chapati. For fruits, it might be a medium apple or 3 small dates. And for starchy veggies, half a cup of peas or a third of a sweet potato. And for milk, it's 1 cup of milk or 3/4 of a cup of plain yogurt.
Wow, that's amazing. This guide is a treasure trove of information.
It really is. It covers everything from the basic principles to very specific advice tailored for different situations.
Balanced meal planning, hydration strategies, appropriate physical activity, managing your energy, taking care of your digestion, it's all there.
And like we said before, always, always talk to your doctor or healthcare team for personalized advice.
Can't stress that enough.
It's the most important step.
So we've covered a ton of information today. I hope everyone feels a little more prepared for Ramadan.
Yeah, we just wanted to give you a solid overview based on this awesome guide.
Before we go, one last thought to ponder.
Ooh, I like these.
Since Ramadan is a time of self-discipline and mindfulness, think about how you can apply those same principles of mindful eating beyond Ramadan.
That's a great point.
In your everyday life. Could be a powerful way to cultivate a healthier and more mindful relationship with food.
Something to think about for sure.
Definitely. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.